Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In this video, we're going to be continuing on with our Quatre project updates. There's been some changes. There's been a few little tweaks here and there, and I'm going to share those with you in here in just a minute. Now, if you haven't come to any of our Quatre updates, what they are is me informing the community, where we stand in our attempt to get everything ready for this game in Nashville on the 2nd of June. The convention is the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Our game is the 2nd, and it's called NashCon, and we're running a Quatre event. Okay, so ever since February, we've been painting miniatures, assembling terrain, putting together range rulers, basically a variety of a bunch of different things to get ready for this game. And we're actually running 2 sessions, so for both games. It's been a lot of painting, a lot of assembling, and a lot of purchasing. This is my entry into 28mm Napoleonic gaming, and I had no Napoleonic figures in 28mm, so I decided I was going to do the entire battle of Quatre Bras in 28mm. Mike has a bunch of units, I have a bunch of units, and we've been painting our asses off. Okay, well, there was some sad news. Mike and I we talked today about the status of our paint jobs and stuff like that, and where we stand, what's going on. And he told me that he has and I could be getting some of this wrong, so but I get the general gist of it is he's been painting, right? He's got a few units finished, and he's got astigmatism that stretches his eyes because he doesn't have the right glasses. And because of that, when he's been painting and having to focus on small 28mm figures or what have you, his eyes have caused him to have some migraine headaches, which I fully understand that. That's why I have like 15 different pairs of glasses. So I understand that. So he's basically incapacitated. So he'll paint a day, and then over the next few days after that, he'll be incapacitated because he'll have these migraine headaches. And when you get those, you don't have any motivation to get in and paint. And so he's let me know that he's got a few units done, but he's not going to have every unit done that's on his list, which that's okay, because I was painting up a bunch of French for my own personal collection, because I personally want to have both the British and the French armies. I even considered getting some Prussians, just to have them. Don't really think I'm ever going to get the Russians. Maybe some Austrians, who knows. Luckily, I had just finished, and you can see scattered in front of here, a bunch of French. So later, like when I put the numbers up on the screen, I'll let you know like which units we got finished, because I'm going to put these into the Quatre Bras campaign base. So you'll get to see those. Plus I'll do the money shot on these French guys because I just finished them. And then the lights, which are barely off the camera there on the board, I've got some light units done, but I don't like what I've got done over there. So what I'm going to do is, and I've got a bunch of new lights from Hat, and I've got some light command stands. So what I need to do is put some of those lights together. I might have to rebase some of these lights. I'm not really going to repaint the ones that are already painted, but I will rebase them and intermix them with the ones that I'm going to be adding. Because the ones I'm adding are pretty much going to be either units of their own, or they're going to be like the Trialiers, Trialiers, like the Trialiers of the light units. So those lights I'm going to have to do a little bit work on, and we're going to make sure we get those ready. Now, what else have I been working on? Well, as you can see, I've been working on these. There's 2 of these buildings. This one is the stable, and this one is, I guess, the farmhouse. When I get these done, I'll let you know. And I also finished up last night my second bridge. So this is either the main bridge or this is the bridge that's going to be over by Thule. I think this is going to be the one by Thule. It could be the main bridge. I don't know. Whatever our gut says, we're going to do. In the last couple of weeks that it's been taking me to get these French painted, I did a couple of other filler videos, and they're videos you might want to check out. I did a primer video. I did a second video on clear coats. I put some Testors dull coat on. I put some Krylon. I put some Rust-Oleum matte sealer and some art matte sealer. I tried a bunch of different sealers. I have limbers to do and those light units to do. That is all we have to do. Once I get those lights done and the limbers done, we're 100% ready to go. Mike still has a Highlander unit that he said he's going to go ahead and muscle it through and finish that unit. But if he doesn't, which is a possibility because of his migraines and stuff, but if he doesn't, it's okay because I have a British unit up here that I was going to use in our optional units, so I could just pull from, and that's what some of these guys were going to be from too. But I'll just pull from the optional units and use it and just call it a Highlander. It can happen because one of the Highlanders actually wore gray pants, right? But having said that, because of Mike's, it's not an injury, I guess condition, I don't know what you would call it, but because of his condition and because there's no way, I haven't even started any of the Hanover troops, there's no way we're going to be able to get those last divisions in the game. The Jerome's division, don't really need it because it should be off in the woods fighting the Nassau, which we haven't done any Nassau, we haven't done Jerome's division. So we're going to leave that off the table. And then the last division that comes into the game comes in on like the last turn of the game. So there's no real need to even have that guy, in the game. So we're basically cutting 2 divisions out of this game. So there's only going to be about 2 to 3 divisions per side, and then so it should still be quite a lot of figures on the table. I mean, that's going to be a lot of figures on the table. Plus the table is not a full 6x12. It's only a 6x8. So that works out pretty good, actually, I think. We'll figure it out. All right, so that's the status of the units, right? So now I wanted to take this opportunity to tell you about the second half of this video. Second half of the video is I want to talk a little bit about this scenario we're going to be playing down in NashCon. All right, before we get into the scenario that we're going to be playing in Quatre Bras, I kind of wanted to tell you a little bit about my history with Napoleonics and this battle specifically, Quatre Bras. I have been playing Napoleonics since 1986. That's a couple of days ago, right? So I've been playing a lot of Napoleonics. The rule set that I adopted at that time was Avalon Hill's Napoleon's Battles. Napoleon's Battles was like a larger scale battle. So the figures, when I say scale, I don't mean the bases were 4 figures a base, just like these guys. The bases were shaped a little bit different, and they represent, each base represented a battalion. Where now the groups of figures, usually 24 figures or so, represent the battalion. So in bolt action, or in black powder, that is. Okay, but back then I was playing in 15 millimeters. So we had 15 millimeter figures on 1-inch bases, and those were, and you put like 4 to 6 of those bases together to form your brigade, right? Okay, So that was a pretty sizable number of figures, like 24 figures was a brigade. Now 12 figures, half, is not even a brigade, it's only a battalion, which is half a brigade for the French. I'm using the French as a reference. I had purchased enough figures to do Waterloo, because I figured in my mind, I was thinking, what's a good battle that I could pick, that I could have a large selection of different types of troops, because I like painting all different kinds of troops, be able to play a massive battle. Yeah, and so if I played any other battles, I would have enough figures to play because I had enough to do the battle I chose. And so I chose Waterloo, mainly because it had a lot of French, it had Prussians, it had Dutch Belgians, Brunswickers, Nassau troops, it had Hanover, it had all kinds of troops, right? Cavalry, artillery, infantry. There was just a bunch of different corps, and it had the guard, it had the light guard, the middle guard, the old guard. You know, it had basically every type of troop out there. You know, from the Allies' point of view, and the French at the time. So I collected all the models to do Waterloo in 15 millimeter. It took me a little while to get it all painted. A long time, actually, years, to get everything painted, but I eventually did. In the meantime, while I got all these figures painted, as we progressed with getting enough figures painted, we were looking for, when I say we, I mean me and my gaming group, we're looking for scenarios to play, some battles to play that we could play that weren't as big as Waterloo. And one of them we came across was the Battle of Quatre, because in 1990, the General Magazine added 2 more scenarios to the Napoleon's Battles scenario book. Scenario 19, the Battle of Quatre, and Scenario 20, which is Ligny. Well, I didn't have enough Prussians to do Ligny, but I did have everything I needed to do Quatre. The battle is super small. It was done on a 3-foot by 3-foot table in 15 millimeter. Okay. So now let's scale that up. A 3-foot by 3-foot. Now that's the entire battle in Napoleon's battles. If you were to scale that up, and we were going to play it in 28 millimeter, you would probably need to double the map scale, just because the figures are double, right? So right now we're sitting on a 6 by 6. We can handle that. But these aren't brigades. These are battalions. So we have to double it again. So I needed a 12 by 12 to do the whole Quatre Bras, the whole map, if we did it exactly like what's in the General. Later on, in a later edition, I think it's 4th edition of Napoleon's Battles, Lost Battalion Games redid the Battle of Quatre Bras. Basically, they reprinted what was in the General, and it's now scenario 15. And they redid Quatre Bras, but this one is almost exactly the same, with a few tweaks here and there compared to the General, because that's Napoleon's Battles. Warlord Games put out this book. They put out a number of these types of books, campaign books, for various campaigns in Black Powder for Napoleonics. They've got the Albion Triumphant 1, which is the Peninsular campaign. It's the British, but it's in the Spanish Peninsula. And then Volume 2, which is the 100 Days Battle, which is back in Belgium, France, that area. So I picked up Volume 2 because of the Quatre Bras and the Waterloo and all that. So I got excited about that. But I also did a whole bunch of Peninsular War with Napoleon's Battles, because we had enough to do every Peninsula battle. Because if you have enough figures to do Waterloo, you had enough to do everything. in the peninsula. So we did a lot of that. If I was to say how many different battles that I played in Napoleon's battles, it's well into the thousands probably. I've since 86, 87 maybe. I used to play this game like every weekend almost. Napoleon's battles, that is. And so I've got pretty familiar with Napoleonic strategies on a grand scale, not so much on this scale. Okay, that's fine. That's why I'm kind of excited about this game, because now I'm playing Napoleonics in a new dimension, like a new. It's fresh. It's not the same old Napoleon's battles. Line everybody up, roll the dice, win the game. Because So by going to the black powder, it's the same kind of concept, the same units, the same places, but now I can kind of see it in a different perspective. Okay, so far you're following along pretty good. When these guys did their Quatre Bras battle, I'm sure they did research. They did they dug up some numbers of some troops and things like that. They made a map, and they came up with like arrival times and stuff like that, and they made it a game, made it a battle, made it a scenario. Okay, so I look at their scenario, and there's some things in the scenario that just don't sit right with me. Either the numbers are not right, or the scale is not right, or the way the troops enter the battlefield just don't seem right to me. Okay, so what I've done is I've compared what I know in history from Napoleon's battles, all the games that I've played. I probably played the Quatre Bras battle probably 20 times. So I'm pretty familiar with how I could probably read this. I could probably quote that book scenario by heart almost. And then I also played a few other games like System 7 or Empire or Volume Bayonet and what's the other one? General de Brigade or the Clash of Eagles. I played a lot on different Napoleonic games as well, but I really didn't enjoy them. I always went back to Napoleon's battles until I ran into the black powder. Okay, so know what I'm trying to get at. And I'm sorry I'm dragging this on. What I'm trying to get at is, for the Quatre Bras project that we've got going on in NashCon, I'm going to take this as the skeleton, and this is the flesh on top of the skeleton, and we're going to make a scenario, right? I've also did a little research on my own, number-wise, numbers of troops, because in this scenario, you can't take this and just say one stand is a battalion, so let's make a battalion and make it 4 stands. No, you can't do that, because the guys that made the Napoleon's battles scenarios rounded off their troop sizes. The troops are rounded off to the nearest, 120 guys or something like that. So they rounded it off to the nearest company. No, not even that. They rounded it off to the nearest battalion, actually. Because, 480 guys. So they could be 480 guys off, and it would still be right. And so we know that's not right. But when I compared it to the Albion Triumphant scenario, if you read the text, it says we played with the figures we owned. So if we had that unit, we would put it on the table. If we didn't have that unit, we didn't put it on the table. And they didn't put it in the scenario. They only put in the scenario what figures they personally owned in their personal. These are not scenarios that you are to emulate. These are scenarios that they actually played and what their results were when they played it. Not, it's not really meant to be a reproduction. And I was like, okay, something's not really right with that. So that's why I'm going to do a little more research on the troop numbers. I'm going to do some research on the entries and the map and everything else. So we're going to try to make this Quatre Bras scenario as historically accurate as possible. Now, having said that, let's back up a little bit. I've already done the troop quantities. I took the troops in this book and this book. I realized that they're not right. I did some historical research, found out exactly how many men were in what unit and where they were. Had a spreadsheet. We filled it out, and I put all the different unit sizes and types. And I didn't have any figures to worry about fitting the scenario into my collection. So I just made the frickin' scenario. I know we need this many troops, period. And then Mike and I went out and we started buying figures to fill that list. So guaranteed, the number of troops we have on the table is going to simulate the number of troops that were in the battle. Guaranteed. Okay. Well, I can't guarantee I wasn't there, but, you know, based on all the research I've done. Okay, so the troops, we've got that list that I got populated on the screen when I populate it. That's based on what was actually there, minus the 2 optional units. The Jerome division, as part of Foy's division, as part of Riel's corps, Jerome's division is on the left-hand side of the battle, in the battle. And Jerome takes his brigades and they attack the Nassau troops that are part of the 2nd Dutch Belgian in the woods, the Bazou Woods. And they stay there all afternoon, doing absolutely nothing. Jerome's guys fight, the Nassau's hit, they might fall back a little bit, there's a little bit of counter-punching or whatever, but because the Nassau's are defending and not attacking, they don't have to worry about moving. They can sit on their hind quarters, and they can just defend the area and constantly, even if they get broken, they don't have to run, they could just slowly fall back. And basically Jerome does advance all the way to Quatre Bras just in time for the game to end and the sun to go down, and they have to retreat. The guys at Warlord thought it would be smart to leave them out of the fight. Why bother, right? What player wants to be over there and just being tied up in the woods? They don't want to do that. They don't want any action like that. That's boring. So they've cut them out of the scenario. By doing that, you've cut out the entire section of the Bazou Woods, because now they're just simulating and saying Jerome's in the woods with the Nassau off table. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with taking them off the table. Now, most tables are not 12 feet wide, or, you know, they might be 12 feet long, but they're not 12 feet wide. So what they did in Albion Triumphant was they just halved it. They said, okay, most people are going to have at least a 6-foot table, possibly, maybe. So they figured out, like, where the map would be if they had to cut it in half. And it's right about Gemiancourt on one side, like on the edge of the table, and Quatre Bras on the other side, on the edge of the table. So they use that as a reference. But with 12 feet this way, you could put the woods and Thule on the table. So what they did was they put some woods on the table. Don't really need to, but it kind of shows a pretty cool spot where all the woods are at. And then Thule all the way down at the other end. But what I've noticed was, and we could probably eliminate Thule. What I've noticed was, playing Napoleon's battles in this battle at least 20 times, is that the French player is on one side of the river, and on the very first turn or two will cross the river with all of his guys. Plain Jane simple, right? They will not, 9 out of 20 times, no, probably 19 out of 20 times, they will not take a unit, march them all the way to the other end of the table so that they can cross that bridge and come up the road to Quatre Bras. It would take too many turns, and you're coming across the bridge in march column. So it's almost, if the British were smart enough, they could position a unit over there and eat them alive. So the French usually don't do that. They usually just cross the river. So why do I need to have Thule in the game? I don't really. I'm going to. We set up the map that way, but we don't really have to. Because what I did was I pretty much mirrored the area of play from this scenario, but I took an actual map of the area, a historical, accurate map of Quatre and the area that we're going to be playing in. I blew it up to the proper scale, and I superimposed on an overlay where the roads and the woods and the buildings are, and then dropped the historical map out so I have just a map. And then I made the battlefield for that. So it should also be historically accurate. So it's not, the table is not made for the game. The figures are not tweaked for the game. They are historically accurate. That's the plan. I found that Quatre is not your typical scenario. It's not you line up on your side, I line up on my side, and we blast each other. It has a lot to do with strategy on the Allies side, not so much the French side. The French are pretty much the hammer. They just attack, 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 attack. That's pretty much all the French do. But the British and their allies, they have to figure out where they're going to defend, how they're going to defend, which units are going to defend where, because they have so few of them, and they come in as reinforcements from time to time, so they got to fill gaps and plug holes. So there's a little bit more strategy on the Allied side than on the French side, but I don't know, maybe the French can have some strategy in this scale. We'll figure that out. Okay, so what I'm trying to say, I'm going to end this video with the money shot on the French troops here, but I do want to say that over the next week or two, I'm going to rewrite or continue writing this scenario to fit our game down in NashCon, and then once it's all over, I'll probably post it on a screenshot on YouTube or something like that, or make the Google Doc available for everybody. I'll put a link so everybody can see the Google Doc or whatever I'm using. So expect, but I'm not going to do that until after the convention because I don't want spoilers, because there will be some secrets in the game that certain division commanders will have that other divisions won't have, and they'll have certain missions they have to do, and if they don't do it, certain things will happen, blah, 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 like that. All right, guys, so give me a second. Let me line these guys up so you get to see the French units.